Hello, our Truth Warriors. Welcome back to episode 108 of the Atlantic Underground podcast. Now, the past few years have been life-changing for many people, and no more so than in the daily job role. With many rules, regulations, and mandates changing, we have seen people fired or hired based upon medical choices. Now, today's guest was placed in a moral dilemma, and from this, his choices morphed into an unexpected opportunity. Here to talk about the equal opportunities of employment, it's George Douklias from Jabless Jobs. Hello, George.
Hello, Chris. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Now, can we start with your own personal experience that led to the formation of Jabless Jobs, please?
Yeah, first, thanks for having me here. Like I was saying in an email, my girlfriend's a big fan of your podcast, and she was jumping for joy when she heard that I was going to be talking with you.
It's always good to know. It's always good to know we've got at least one person that watches us.
And for your listeners, I'm in Vancouver, British Columbia, and how it all started, I'll try and be brief. I was working in summer of August 2021. I was recently hired by a friend of mine, I might add. We'd known each other since kindergarten in Winnipeg. I'd call him a lifelong friend, and he hired me as management for his building maintenance company, and so I was in training for management. What was odd about it is that before he hired me, we had that talk because there was all the talk about the can I say the V word?
Of course, yeah. Because YouTube won't let us on anyway now, so we may as well go for it. We say what we want.
July, August of 2021, here in British Columbia, there was a lot of talk about, mandates for vaccines somewhere around the corner. It was rumors, and everyone, at the time there was all these age brackets that you could get the vaccine at, and so elderly first, then Indigenous and people of color, and it was just odd how they were rolling it out. And so all that talk was happening, and me and him had that talk in sometime in July. And I said, I wasn't down some rabbit hole or anything. I just wasn't sure. And I said, I'm going to give it 2 full long Canadian winters before I decide. And so I said, July of 2023, I'll know if I want to take it or not.
Yeah.
And he was quite shocked. He was like, how could you not? And then of course he gave me the spiel about how, vaccines saved, killed the measles and a bunch of other stuff. And I was like, this one seems a little different. I'm not sure. Yeah. But I'm going to wait a few winters. I want to see a few flu seasons come and go and how things happen, and so then he hired me a few weeks later. We were talking about that and about working for him, and he hired me as management. So I thought I was safe. If there was mandates coming, I thought I'd be safe because he knew where I stood.
Yeah.
On my very first day of training, my very first day of working for him, he told me him and this operations manager are gonna start pressuring me to get vaccinated, and that's why I said, hey, well, let's end this now, because we're going to end up with a conflict. And he's like, well, let's just forget about it. And I was like, hey, come on, let's be real here. If you're going to enforce this on me, then we're going to end up in a conflict. So why train me? It's like, well, let's just forget about it. I knew he was really short staffed, so I just didn't want a conflict. And I'll shorten the story here. 3 weeks later, towards the end of August, he sends out a message. The operations manager sends out a message saying that all the staff are going to have to be vaccinated, and those who are not are going to have limitations. And then backing up a little bit, I felt not secure in that job from the very first day. So I started looking online for any sort of list of jobs that I could apply for here in Vancouver that could guarantee me that I wouldn't be asked that question. And I wasn't finding anything. I just couldn't find anything. I was looking on Facebook and Telegram, looking for lists. I did find some names of groups on Telegram, but they were just so noisy with all this extra information. So, what I was thinking at the time is like, I don't really care about what's going on in Australia when I'm looking at this list. I don't really care about what new rule is being implemented in Austria. I just want to find a job that I can take a bus to here in Vancouver. That was my problem. Sometime after, while thinking about this, I was up really early, washing my face in the bathroom, and the name just landed in my head. Just went Jabless Jobs. That's a good name. That says it all right there. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
A Jabless job. So I went to Telegram and I started a group that morning. It was a group where people could post on their own, and I didn't like that. Within a couple of days, it started getting noisy with all this extra information. I shared my concerns with a friend of mine who knew Telegram better than me, and she suggested that I change it into a channel. And then people will have to get in touch with me to post, and I will take their information and make a post out of it. And that's what I did. And I called that the official birthday of Jabless Jobs. That was August 24th of 2021. That first morning, we went from 18 subscribers and no jobs to noon that morning. We had 400 subscribers and 3 jobs listed. I knew I had something special that morning. From being on a channel that I can control, I recognized the opportunity to form a brand and build trust with the users. I put my name out there. I'm George. I'm doing this. This is who I am. Ask any questions. Here's an email address. This is how we operate. That same friend of mine, she created a little logo, which we still use to this day. And I put it up there, and that became the foundation of our colors and our brand and our purpose as a business. So a few days after August 24th, I hadn't told my boss that I started a job board on Telegram, but this message came telling me that we're going to all have to get vaccinated, and those who are not are going to have limitations and restrictions. And I just knew right there, like that's segregation.
Yeah,
that's discriminatory. And if I'm management, I'm going to have to enforce that on my team, and I'm not doing that. So to avoid a conflict, I gave my employer a month's notice. You can have me. I knew he was short staffed. Like, you can have me for all of September. And the odd thing was that industry wasn't even mandated. We're working outside. I was cleaning windows. He was just and I still think the guy's great, and I don't want to, I won't say his name or what the company's name was or anything like that, but he became a disciple of Fauci. He drank the mainstream Kool-Aid, and that's how it went. And he did that, and I did not, but we still have all those memories of the playground together, and I don't want to ruin that.
No.
So I gave him my notice, told him you can have me till the end of September. I knew that by that point the mandates were going to be kicking in on the 13th of September. But that industry wasn't going to be mandated, so I was good till the end of the month. On like the 2nd of September or something, I got an email saying a surprise shortage of work, we're laying you off.
Yeah.
I knew it wasn't legit, but I took it.
No. Yeah, no, that's
so
it.
That gave me the opportunity to really focus on Jabless Jobs and expand it. And so within a week we had Jabless Jobs Okanagan. Then we had Jabless Jobs Alberta or Southern Alberta. I don't remember the whole progress of it all, but with people were telling me I should really monetize it, because I was broke. I needed a job, right? Like, I was still looking for a job. I thought I'd run it for a few weeks and find a job through the job board and then pass it off to someone. That was my thoughts at the time. I wasn't some activist. I wasn't some entrepreneur, thinking that way in the beginning. And so someone just said to me, you got a really special thing here. You should, make it your own and monetize it, and you can sustain it that way. Mid-September, I reserved the name, bought myself some time. Early, it was mid-October. A friend of mine dropped $3,000 in my lap and said, here you go, get it out the gate. So I incorporated on the 14th of October. And then we were off to the races. We started charging early November. We were still on Telegram. People were paying us to post jobs on Telegram. I gotta say too, September, October, those 2 months, I didn't earn a dime anywhere. I don't know how I survived. In hindsight, I really don't know how I pulled it off. I don't really have a map to it. And so then we started charging, and we didn't really have a good system in place. I had a way of making invoices, but I had no way of people paying directly through some sort of online service. We had no website yet. So we would get emails, I would get their company information, and then I would just send them an invoice and just post everything right away, and just said, we're just going to have to trust that they'll pay.
Yeah.
Everybody paid. And that was the beginning of me realizing like that not only do I have a business here, but I might have Canada's greatest customers.
Yes, fantastic. Now, a lot of pressure was put on employers by the government with fears of fines or closures for the non-compliance. Now, have you ever looked into it to see, was this legal or mandated for them to insist that the staff are being vaccinated? Is there any kind of, other than them saying to the likes of yourself and other people, you know, you're going to have to leave your job, was there any legal recourse that they could enforce upon people with the backing of the government, or was this just all smoke and mirrors?
I think it was a bit of both. I think it was smoke and mirrors, and then a lot of people caved at the legal threats. I didn't follow it, daily and such. I was just stories I was hearing.
Yeah.
A lot of people got ticketed, and then they just ended up throwing out the tickets when they went to see the magistrate. So I heard about a few of those incidents, but then there was some businesses that were being hit hard, like losing their licensing, given serious fines. But they may or may not have won those fines in court. I'm not sure. You see, we've just had to keep our head down and work, because we've just been nonstop. Like, we just can't do things fast enough. And I realized, like, somewhere around October, November, that it doesn't matter where there's mandates and where there's not mandates, and what rules happen in different provinces, because it's not going to change the course of our actions. It's not going to change our purpose.
Yeah.
Because by that point, I realized, and I had experienced it, that a lot of employers who weren't even under any mandates were enforcing.
Yeah.
So that meant that we can work freely for similar industries that aren't mandated, and just be a job board for them like normal.
Yeah. I mean, I think what amazed me the most, for those businesses that forced and coerced and demanded that staff get vaccinated, it makes me wonder if at any point they considered that they could be liable for any kind of adverse reactions or injury that was caused to that staff member that was just, doing what they had to do to get by and earn a living. Has anyone ever discussed with you the fact that the potential to kill somebody by asking them to take this was there? And I don't know how an employer would feel about that if all of a sudden somebody didn't turn up for work one day after doing what they asked, and then realizing that they were the cause of either injury or death to them.
I don't know what employers were thinking. People in Canada are just too kind, and people in Canada just trust the CBC news too much, and so if the CBC says it has to be real. It has to be the right thing to do. And I think that's the mentality. And like, let's consider what life is like in their shoes.
Yeah.
They're running a business, and they're busy. They've got family. They don't have time to do research. They don't have time to stop and do some critical thinking. They just have to make sure they can keep their doors open and keep their kids going to hockey. so I sympathize with them to some degree, but lately we've been hearing rumors that vaxxed people are missing work a lot and using up all their sick days rapidly, more than normal. I don't like rumors. I don't like to double down on hearsay. So I put out a call to all of our followers on social media to get us some data. A lot of people on our side of history are good at doing research. We just couldn't find any data on that at all. So we asked for it. We asked people to send us what they can find. We got no hard numbers. We got no government website numbers. We got nothing, but we got a lot of stories.
Yeah,
we got a lot of people emailed us and messaged us and they're real head shakers. Like, it's like, this can't be real. Like, it's just shocking.
Yeah, we interviewed Tiago from Died Suddenly News, which is a huge Facebook channel which is blowing up, and the amount of numbers of people who are posting their real life stories up of what's happened to friends, family, people that they know, people that they associate with, work people, and the amount of posts and information that's coming through on that correlates with what we're seeing in regards to the likes of VAERS, yellow card reporting system. Even the World Health Organization actually has a reporting system now for adverse effects and deaths. And the numbers are stacking. They're stacking a lot, which tells me that this is the case. And yeah, I was going to mention, I've got something I wanted to ask you maybe a little bit later on in regards to people missing work, because that certainly is something that's been crossing my mind, that, the long-term fallout, we'll call it, of pressurizing staff to have this could overall mean that the company will end up losing far more money and far more productivity due to the downtime of staff being ill with potentially side effects and health effects that have come from actually taking this medication.
Mm-hmm. Well, we wanted some hard numbers, not to try and be an "I told you so" sort of, we don't want to point any fingers, but we realize that we have low overhead and our prices are fair. And we realize that we have the potential to use an economic incentive for employers to consider, the ones that are on the fence.
Yeah.
We want them to consider, coming over to this side of history.
Yeah.
And, so if we can get some solid numbers, then we can put them out there as an incentive to reconsider that maybe the news is wrong, and maybe it's true that Jobless Jobs does have the best type of employees, job seekers, because we really believe it's such a gold rush of a time to find staff, because all these highly talented people are looking for work for like the first time in our lifetimes. Those are the people that would have been perfectly fine staying at their career for the rest of their working life. And obviously they're people who are willing to stand behind their decisions, otherwise they wouldn't be in this situation. And they're people who are willing to do their own research and learn as they're getting older, otherwise they wouldn't be in this situation. So those are the types of people that are leaders and can really help a team grow. And I mean, we've reached out to employers who we're not sure about, like, we're not ashamed about what we're doing at all. So we got nothing to lose by just reaching out to an employer who we're just not sure, but here's who we are and here's what we do. And so we've tried telling them about this, just highly talented people available for the first time since you opened your store, and they're still hesitant. So we're always looking for tools to really pull those people over. I've heard that analogy that middle 40% or 60%. You got the 20% on one end and 20% on the other, and 60% in the middle, right? We don't want to stick to the 120% side, right? We want to expand and grow into and pull people over to our side of history through just simply agreeing with our values, give them an economic incentive. That's our long-term goal.
Yeah, and the fact that, as you say, employers now have access to a complete talent pool that would not normally be there. Highly qualified people who, as you say, are leaders, managers, people who are experts in their fields, that if they had stayed with their job long term, which they, as you say, they probably would have stayed there for the rest of their lives, would never have been available for other companies to take advantage of. And it's a great way for companies to take advantage of. Now, you're not prepared to discriminate regardless. I know of this. And the options you have on the table, tell us why you want a fair opportunity for all people.
Well, because integrity, will always be the better person. Someone with integrity, someone with industry experience is a far more suitable candidate for that any specific role over someone who shares political ideology.
Yes,
that's really what we're doubling down on. We don't work with employers. Like, I've only had it happen twice where an employer's asked me to find someone who can prove they're not vaccinated. We don't do that. We don't work with those employers. We don't ask. That's the rule. If you ask, it doesn't matter which side of the question you're asking. If you're asking, that's asking. So we don't want to support hiring based on a medical decision, whether you did it or you didn't. We don't want to contribute to a two-tiered Canada, a two-tiered segregated society. We don't want to be a part of that.
No.
We're focused more on being hired based on your integrity, your interview, and your industry experience, which is the way it should have always been. But now we're in a culture war, right? It's not just about medical decision, it's about political ideology. That's seems to be taking the lead.
Yeah, no, that's it. And it amazes me because, current drops in employment are nothing new, but for at least the past 5 years, I've spoken to many employers in my positions, roles, and when I've traveled around the world about the issues that they are having with staffing. This is nothing new. And I've known of many business closures for people because they just couldn't get the staff. Now, this being the case, how can so many employers now take the risk of losing staff when this could, it's like cutting your nose off to spite your own face. It could cause so many problems. If, let's say, you have a business with 100 employees and 25% of your staff aren't prepared to go along with the mandates, the measures, and taking a vaccine to regain and keep that employment, a loss of 25% staff in a company could close the company down. And surely this must be in the back of the mind of HR departments and employers when they are considering the damage they could cause to their own business.
Sadly, it appears that social status matters more to these people than livelihood. I really think that social pressure just is enough for so many of these employers. And the people who were maybe a little bit of the loners in high school, maybe the people who didn't rush off to get their driver's license at 16, or the people that didn't just run with the pack all the time. I think those are the people we're seeing taking the lead in some of the circumstances in this last 2.5 years, and especially during the vaccine era, who are just not afraid to just sacrifice their social status. And that's I'm afraid that's the answer to your question, is like, This is a wonderful and wonderful and a both and also an unfortunate social sciences experiment. And what we're seeing as the result is social status matters so much more to people than their livelihood or their safety of their friends, their employees.
Yeah, it's an absolute sad sign of the times when we consider that. Now, there's lots of hard evidence out there, though, to show the ineffectiveness of the shots for stopping people catching COVID. I mean, Justin Trudeau and Biden are perfect examples of that. Now, add to this the damages people are now well aware of, including the deaths by the thousands. Would any employer at this stage in the pandemic actually think the benefits outweigh the risks to continue to impose the demands upon staff?
Well, apparently, yes. I mean, certainly, yes. We see a lot of employers who are still enforcing out of their own choice. There's no more mandates provincially in Canada. There's some federal mandates, to my understanding, but the majority of the provincial mandates in certain industries have been lifted.
Yeah.
But there's still employers who are enforcing, and it's obviously one big virtue signal. And yeah, the data is out there. There's a lot of information one can gather, but they're not, and it's not on the mainstream news, so it can't be real. If it's not on the news, it's not real. That's the way people are thinking. If the CBC doesn't say it, then it's not anything that should be worried about.
Yeah, well, it reminds me of the stories that we heard of the lone soldiers from years ago. The war ended, but they were out somewhere doing their mission or job. They weren't even aware that the war had ended, and there they were still continuing to fight. It kind of reminds me that, that these people aren't seeing that the war has ended and the fight is over, and there they are out there still fighting, thinking that they're doing the best for the cause. Now, I've been an employee and I've been an employer. I've owned my own business and supported staff as a manager and a director, and I pride myself on treating staff the same way that I want to be treated myself, and I respect their beliefs and their wishes. What drives people to treat others without compassion and empathy to the problems that they are clearly fearful of, and take advantage of their positions of seniority? And should people like this actually hold such job roles, certainly in management and, directorships and high levels where they have a lot of people under them? I think business is business, and I understand that people have to make money. But at the end of the day, your staff, I believe, are everything to you. The staff are your company, and without the staff underneath you, you have no business whatsoever. It just amazes me that some of these people, and they are narcissistical sociopaths, a lot of them, climb to these positions and hold these job roles. Do you think people like this in the future need to be weeded out of companies, or the companies actually like the fact that somebody is there cracking a whip?
Well, if we encourage a free and open market in Canada, they're going to be out of work anyway.
Yeah.
We believe in capitalism, just being conscious about it, and ethical is always, purpose-driven capitalism is exactly what I'm doing. And let the market decide. If their company are having people sick all the time, and that's going to get out. People talk, and they're going to realize no one's going to want to work there if everyone's sick all the time. Yeah. And the repercussions of these leaders, the decisions of these people in leadership roles are going to be long lasting, and it's only a matter of time until the virtue signaling will dry up. We're very confident that we could pull people over onto our side of history, that center on the fence people, the 40% or 60% on the fence.
Yeah.
And we're just going to give an economic incentive, and it's just basic values. That's all we do, is just share our values, and here you'll save money if you use our service, as opposed to some of the other bigger job boards out there. You end up spending thousands of dollars, where You can get a lot further down the road with us for a lot less.
Absolutely. Now, what is the main core of the employee specialist fields looking for employment because of the mandates? To give us an idea, who is doing the firing and where is the main core of people coming from? I know I had a lot of friends within the hospital environment as nurses and doctors, and we've interviewed a lot of them as well who have stood their ground. But is there a main area? Are we looking at areas within the government? Are we looking at teachers? Are we looking at nurses? Where is the main core and the main expertise area of people that are coming to you looking for work?
Largely, I've seen government workers, people who have decades of experience in administrative work. They've seen all the softwares come and go.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of resumes of people with administrative backgrounds that work for the government. Also, some of the federally regulated companies all across Canada, there's a lot of admin people who are just available. Students was another one because all the universities were mandating. So we saw a lot of like students not sure what to do. I actually have a great story about that. Just last month, we had might have been 2 months ago now. We had a job for a private clinic in Edmonton. There's a lot of it's really awesome to see a lot of private medical clinics are turning up, and people, they don't go and they see a nurse, they don't go and see a doctor, they see an advisor. And this is someone who has lost their medical license, their professional medical license,
Right.
and so they can take it or leave it. And what they're doing is they're setting up memberships, so you don't have to go to a doctor's office. What you're doing is you're becoming a member of a club, and you're paying like a monthly service, a monthly fee, and you're then can go there, just treated just like a gym would, and
Yeah.
you go there for health reasons and you take advice, and the doctor, the professional, I should say, gives you advice on how to treat it, and you can take it or leave it. What your issue is, you can take it or leave. They're more advisors. They're not working as nurses. The few that I've spoken with, they're very happy, and I'll get to my story. I'll get back to that right away. But they're very happy that, like, I mean, they were scared to lose their license and a lot of uncertainty. But after they got out of the system and realized that they no longer had that license and there was some private medical, opportunities coming around, they jumped for joy because they're no longer constricted into a box. They can use all their information. I've been very pleasantly surprised at how many nurses were actually interested in holistic healing.
Yes.
And how many nurses were actually like wanting to get to the source of the problem, but the system of the constraints they were in within that license that they held forced them to just be drug pushers.
Yes.
So recently we had a job come up from Edmonton, and it was for someone with IV experience. And they got slammed with applicants. They were looking for someone with IV experience. It was basically, they were looking for an out-of-work nurse. And that was great. I loved watching the applicants just fly in there. I'm like, here we go. We're facilitating medical workers to help Canadians stay healthy. I just love that. And we got an email from someone. This company was anonymous, by the way. We have an anonymous option for people, right. But we still need to know who they are. We need to vet them. We need to know who they are. So we just restrict the information on who they are to the public viewing on the job board. And so we got an email from a young woman telling us that she's in the Edmonton area. She was able to get through university in the last few years, but she's got to do I think it was like a 2 or 3 month practicum, and she's specializing in something that related with IV. And she was wondering if I can give her the name of the employer who's had that job. She wants to do her practicum somewhere, but everywhere else she's been looking, they want a vaccine, proof of vaccination.
Yeah.
And I told her, I'm sorry, I cannot give you that name. I made a promise, I won't be disclosing that information. But we can reach out to that employer and ask on your behalf. And she said, sure. So we just emailed them, and we had a conversation shortly after. I basically read out the email to the employer over the phone. And just a few weeks later, we heard that they hired two very happy out of work nurses who are just jumping for joy to be there. Plus, they're going to help facilitate the graduation of a nursing student.
Perfect.
It's like all that happened, So there's been a big shuffle and a challenge for students, medical workers, and government.
Yeah. Now, obviously, with a lot of different variants from professionals coming in and switching roles, are you able to help many professionals to retrain for work that they wouldn't normally do? It wouldn't normally be their expert area.
We do put out newsletters and information about traits to focus on for transitional skills. We have encouraged a lot of our job seekers to really focus on their what skills of their industry they can transition into other jobs. Unfortunately, they're just some of the industries that they have experience in are federally regulated, and they just cannot go back to any of those jobs, or their employers are still enforcing and they cannot go back. Even the employers who stopped enforcing, a lot of job seekers, current job seekers who lost work during that period, have also lost trust in their previous employer. They want an employer they can trust. So that a lot of people are willing to do anything. In like last fall, I was getting people emailing me saying, I'll take any job you got, and that's cool. Like, that's great. Like, I mean, I guess someone who owns a job board loves hearing that.
Yeah.
But it was heartbreaking sometimes. Like, I remember how horrible I felt when I helped a nurse find a landscaping job, and that's great. Like, she was a single mom, but that was good. But we lost a medical professional. There's one less medical professional, and these people that love what they're doing, they love their industry. They put their heart into it, but they can't always go back to that industry. So they were telling me they'll do anything. I was like, no, like, let's start focusing on what you can do best. What do you want to do? What have you always wanted to do? Let's focus on this sort of stuff, and let me know and what those things are, and send me an email, and I'll reach out to employers in that sector. And if they're hiring, I'll tell them about my job board. And that's how we do it.
No, I know. When I was in Canada, I was quite surprised. I met a doctor who was a taxi driver. He couldn't do the job there. They wouldn't allow him to do the job there anymore. And he said, well, okay, he took what money he had and bought himself a vehicle. And it's funny, regardless of his qualifications, the guy said he was actually quite happy. He said there was no stress, there was no pressure. He was just out there working, enjoying himself, talking to people. But again, as you say, this is somebody that is very much in need, certainly in Canada, certainly in any country. Everywhere is crying out for people with these high medical qualifications that can do the job. And quite sadly, it's got to a point now where they are saying, well, no, I've had enough. I'm going to go and do something else completely. And we are losing very much needed staff in that regards.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword, because as much as I like Canada's medical system being free and available for all, I've always, ever since 2001, I've been a big advocate for having a two-tiered system of private and public, because there's a demand for it. If someone needs a surgery in time to get that sports scholarship and there's a backlog, they can't get it, then they're going to lose their sports scholarship. They'll borrow money and go to the States and get that surgery. My dad was a great example. He was diagnosed with a brain tumor in the summer of 2000, and he was given a 3-month prognosis, and then he was told, a surgery could help him, and an MRI could also help him as well before the surgery. But there's a 6-month waiting list for the MRI. That doesn't add up, and and
No.
doctors were having to tell people that stuff every day. So my dad, luckily, he was a business owner. He had some money, and he drove to North Dakota from Winnipeg and got an MRI. It cost like $3,500 US. But nonetheless, he had MRI images on his doctor's desk the very next day.
Yeah.
And that's when I went, hey, there's room for a private clinic of this
Yes.
somewhere in Manitoba. There's room for a private medical industry in Canada. A two-tiered system would really alleviate the federal free Medicare system, and also keep the money in Canada.
Yeah. No, definitely. Now, are you able to work alongside, other job boards like LinkedIn, or is this job platform again another censored social media site which is following the official narratives? And I know I've heard stories of people who have posted things up on there because, again, it's kind of a chat board, even though it's for jobs. And if they didn't like what somebody was talking about, they would remove their profiles from there. Have you worked alongside this, helped people using that platform, or are you able to utilize that platform for the services that you provide as well?
A little bit. We're not too crazy about LinkedIn. I mean, none of the social media, the big tech social media platforms are our favorite, but we use them. One of our customers here in Vancouver, he owns a building maintenance service, and he works mostly in North Van. Not my old friend, by the way, a different business owner. He told me he had 25,000 followers on LinkedIn, and they shut him down completely because he was not holding back. They just closed his account.
Yeah.
Lost it all. And from knowing that, I was not very pleased to go running towards LinkedIn. So we do have a LinkedIn account, but we don't use it very much. We just use it a little bit. But one thing we learned, like a little funny lesson here, it was a bit of a blessing in disguise, is when we were starting all of our Telegram channels, like Telegram, Jabless Jobs Winnipeg, Jabless Jobs Toronto, and all that last September, like a little over a year ago, we were not holding back with our language. And so we started we started a Jabless Jobs Toronto. No, it was a Jabless Jobs Winnipeg first. We started Jabless Jobs Winnipeg on Instagram, and we weren't holding back on our language. Within 4 hours, we got locked out of that account. So 4 hours.
Yeah.
That burned in my mind.
And
So
when we say language, we're not swearing, we're not cursing, we're not calling people out. This is just the words that we're seeing in the media, words like vaccine and COVID-19. All of a sudden you're not allowed to say these words, even though it's everywhere else, and it's common words that's being seen in the media every day.
Well, this was an important lesson too. They did us a favor. Instagram did us a huge favor by shutting us down there. What we ended up doing was, like, the very next day, I opened up a Jabless Jobs Toronto Instagram account. Again, within a few hours, I got locked out of it. I still can't get in it. So out there in the cyber world, there's 2 Instagram accounts that we started, but we can't get to.
Yeah.
The Jabless Jobs Winnipeg and Jabless Jobs Toronto. Just if your listeners are checking them out, just don't even follow those. Just go to the Jabless Jobs Instagram account. But we were in a rush. We wanted to get on social media, and I had a small team already by that point. And we said, there was a push to try and get back on. What are we going to do next? What's the next one? And I was like, I need to think a little bit. I need to think this through. So what we did is we ended up getting a different cell phone, a different phone number, and we created a different account, not based on any of our existing accounts. We created a completely different profile that was linked to a different phone number that had nothing to do with any of our existing information. and indirectly we ended up with a company phone. That was one byproduct of that. Then I just I did some thinking. I was like, okay, we're going to have to learn to express ourselves and say what we're saying without using those words.
Yeah.
So this is where we came up with terms like non-discriminatory job board.
Yes.
This is where we started coming up with terms like that, and we're focusing on our language, deciding what words we're going to use and how we're going to present ourselves, and to tell the public who we are and what we do without using the specific words.
Yeah.
And that really helped us with our language, with the way we communicate, with the way we show people what we're doing. And that, we leave politics out of what we're doing. We don't want someone to come to our service and feel like they have to choose a political party.
Yeah.
We just want them to share our ethics.
No, that's it. Now, there are benefits of being employed, but I know a lot of people who have left the companies that they work for, usually disgruntled to treatment and whatever's happened over a period of time. A lot of people think it may be the opportunity for them to become self-employed. Do you have any systems in place, or have you helped anybody in putting them in the right direction where they have said, I don't want to work for anyone, I'd like to actually try and pursue something myself in regards to a self-employed career? Is that something that you can help with?
Well, yeah, there's two ways we can help with that. One is we have advertising space on our job board, not for a job post, but for advertise your company here. Unfortunately, we had to make it very expensive because we sold a lot of those types of those advertising services right off from the very beginning, because we wanted to keep it affordable. But we didn't want to end up with more advertisements than jobs.
Yeah.
That's what it was looking like. So we had to just keep pumping the price up until we slowed it down. And so there's that. But I discourage people from using that, because I don't want to take that amount of money from them to promote their newly started business. There's a lot of trainers who are working out of their home or their garage. There's a lot of mobile hairdressers now. There's a lot of caterers. There's people who are willing to do freelance bookkeeping. There's all sorts of freelancers out there. And what I tell them to do usually is to just put together a little post. If they have a social media account, get connected with us. And we'll just promote them on our social media stories for nothing. We just want to give them a chance. And we've had so much of that interest. Finally, in the last 3-4 months, we got control of our website a lot more, and where it's a lot more automated. We're having to do less manual work. We're still very busy, but we're able to just broaden out a little bit. And we spend most of the summer designing and constructing the plan, and we're gonna start building a dual service where we're a directory and a job board together. We feel we're in a good position to give incentive to employers to join our side of history through that directory as well. We have a lot of job seekers and consumers following us, and we have a lot of self-employed, newly self-employed individuals who are freelancing with whatever service that they can give. So we're going to be building a directory, and I don't want to say any launch dates yet, but it's a few weeks away.
Excellent.
So yeah, that's just around the corner, and we're going to make that affordable for people. And we've gained the trust of so many Canadians, and we just keep finding more people. And so we feel like we're in a great position to build that directory for Canada and spread the word, because consumers want to find businesses and support businesses who share in their value. Job seekers want an employer they can trust, and business owners are just so strapped from 2.5 years of mandates and lockdowns, and now with rising inflation rates. And I'm just going to keep our team small. We're going to not get an office. We're going to work out of our homes so we can then pass on those savings to our customers, and we're going to keep it economically available for all.
Yeah. No, it's fantastic news. Now, have you received any pushback in regards to what you're doing from any other businesses or individuals not liking what they're seeing?
No, we've had, like, I mean, we've had no trolls. We've had no, like, it's been awesome.
That's great.
There surprisingly, any sort of negativity has been from people on our side of history, because we're just not doing things fast enough,
Yeah.
because the demand is there. However, like, we haven't had people come and chasing after us saying, you decide things differently than me, and haven't had anyone from the government. I mean, most of the industries that we're facilitating employment for are not even mandated.
That's fantastic.
It's just about ethics, right? So
Yeah.
we did have one global news reporter last December start digging around. I didn't like how she was acting. She was a little slimy. That was the only real troll I had. She started calling people, my customers, on the job board and asking why they're posting on Jabless jobs. And,
Right.
and then one of my customers contacted me to tell me, and I was like, damn, I don't like that.
Yeah.
I don't like that she's doing that. She should have called me.
But do you know what the beauty? Do you know what the beauty is on that? I heard this week that global news are looking at bankruptcy right now.
Yeah, but if our government stays the same, they're probably just going to stuff a bunch of money in their pockets.
Well, that's what they're asking for. They're asking to be bailed out right now, but I'm hoping they don't, because if that's the kind of thing that they're doing, that's again very unethical.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. I got a great story that came from that reporter digging around on our website too. I have a background in news. I've worked in the news industry for 8 years, and I've been in a few newsrooms, been in quite a few of them, and known quite a few reporters. She had no idea who I was or what my background was. A few weeks before that happened, the timing was really good. I heard someone say that we're going to have to negotiate with the legacy system if we're going to build a parallel structure in any sort of way. We're going to, at some point, we're going to have to negotiate with the previous legacy system. And I like that. I kept that in mind. And then when I got news of what this reporter was doing, she was calling my customers and leaving voice memos, or telling them if they answered that she wants to do an interview, and she was pushing for a statement that they could use against us to suit her narrative.
Yeah.
And so I had learned this already, and I'm like, okay, she's leaving voicemails around all over Canada. And I got her phone number from one of my customers. It was Ontario, it was a Toronto area code. So I was, oh, she's going to be hot on her phone. She's waiting for callbacks now. So if she sees my BC area code, she'll answer. So I just said, this is a chance to negotiate. And I wanted to add to that and say, we're going to negotiate with them, sure, but on our terms when we choose to. And that was my opportunity. So I said, I turned to my partner, hey, you know what? Instead of waiting for her to decide to call us, I'm calling her now. So we made a recording of the phone call. I told her when she answered who I was and why I was calling. And I also told her that we're recording the phone call. And we had about a 14-minute phone conversation that we recorded. She knew about it. She said perfectly fine that we're recording. But she gave us such golden content for social media. It was just awesome. Like, it was great. I think the audio recording on our Facebook account has had almost 30,000 views. And once in a while we just take another clip out of it because it's just so golden. She just gave us such great content. So it was a win-win for us. Like, it was great. It was a wonderful thing that she was digging around. So she tried to troll us and shut us down, but we won that one.
Some people don't realize when they're digging themselves their own hole. Now, are you receiving a lot of referrals from customers and businesses now for new clients?
No, we're not. We do ask people to spread the word. What's funny is most of our employers who reach out to us, we'll always ask them, how'd you hear about us? And they'll usually say from their teenage daughter. Because most employers, I mean, let's face it, they're baby boomers. They don't have Instagram. They know Facebook a little bit, but they don't navigate it very well, and they're certainly not on Telegram. So they don't really know, they don't really hear about us until they're kids. So we're getting a lot of teenagers referring us to their parents.
Yeah, it sounds about right, actually. Me
Yeah.
and technology. I always get the kids to fix what I can't understand on these things these days. Now, most people have been in jobs, as we said, for many years, and know my resume, or CV as they call it, in England, is not up to date. You know, it's years out of date, and it's certainly probably not something that I'd wish to put under a potential employer's nose. Do you offer a service for helping people build a current and effective resume?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you asked. We had so many people reaching out to us with that exact comments. Like, I haven't made a resume in 15 years. They don't know what a like an ATS system is. They don't
No,
they
I've
don't
never heard of
know
it.
any they don't know anything about how a recruitment service works. They don't know anything about what HR does with their resume. They know they were good at what they did. They never had to make a resume, and they can't navigate the internet very well. Sure, like a few of them I told, find a template and just copy it. There's free services out there. But we had so much demand, so what we did is we set up a resume building service. It took a little while to construct. If you go to the job seekers page, it's in the menu. Go to job seekers and scroll down, you'll find the resume building option. Just hit a button there. There's 3 sections you fill out. And what we did is we set it up. We're like, okay, we needed to make it, we can't do it for free. I need a real person. I need a real employment specialist, a resume specialist to actually do this. If you do some sort of robotic thing, it's never going to work. It's like Google Translate or something. It just doesn't nail it, right? So
Yeah.
we needed a real person, and we needed to make it affordable. So what we did is we came up with a system. And you go on there, you fill out the form, you fill out, if any of your listeners are wanting to do this, I ask you, be as detailed as possible. Please be long-winded, just write it all out. There's also an option there to upload any pre-existing resumes you might have. It's not mandatory, but if you have a pre-existing resume, it will help our resume specialist to just understand the direction you want to go and see some of your past work experience and stuff. It's just more information for her. And then it gets submitted into our resume specialist workload, and then you'll get your resume within 2 working days. And it's only $50, which I've looked around, and we're the cheapest on the internet. It's only $50, and they're professional resumes. You get a solid resumes.
Wow.
We'd like to eventually incorporate doing cover letters, but that's going to take a phone call consultation, and that's a little different, and we're just not ready to implement that. We're probably going to need a few resume specialists and a bigger team for that.
Yeah.
So we'll do that when the demand really kicks in. But for now, we're doing just fine with just building a professional resume.
Perfect. Now, you're covering Canada and the US currently. Do you have any plans to link up with other people around the world so that they can offer the same platform you have? Basically like franchising Jabless jobs so it can become a global thing.
I'd be happy to do that. Just focused on Canada takes up most of our energy, and this is like whatever happens in Canada affects us first. So I'm really focused on making Canada better, and we have been in touch with people in similar circumstances as us in other countries. There's Freedom Recruitment in Australia, and then a long list of job boards in Europe. And what we're doing is and I want people to just be inspired by what we're doing. We have a great model here for how to win this through a corporate direction. Like, we're using the pre-existing tools of capitalism to fight against what might be a potential, what might be a communist takeover, an attempt at a communist takeover.
Yeah.
So what better tool to use than capitalism to fight communism? So we've got our language down packed, and we're always refining it. We've gotten our social media figured out, and we're always refining that too. And we're a great model for people to just learn from what we're doing. We'll share with you our mistakes and our lessons. So if someone from South Africa hears this and wants to have a chat, just get in touch, send us an email at hello@jablessjobs.work, and I'll gladly share with you, our model.
Yeah. Now, why haven't we seen the support from the unions that so many people pay a lifetime of dues to during their employment? I've not heard anyone being fully supported by them. Could this prove that the union system that so many people, certainly within the government jobs, are relying upon has become a failure for them?
Unions have always traditionally been a leftist thing. We got a leftist government now, and so far to the left it's hard to even see where they're at.
Yeah.
And it's clear what we're seeing now is that they're very closely tied. Like there's Unifor in Canada is I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. They're a union for news media. Almost all the journalists, the professional journalists in Canada, if we can even still call them that, they're all unionized. They're all part of that union. And we've seen, like, last September, a year ago, when we had the federal election, there was Unifor funded commercials all for supporting in opposition of the Conservative Party.
Yeah.
And so they're clearly on one side of the fence. And then they're also the union for the journalists. We have a serious problem in Canada with so much politics being influenced by government money, so many unions being influenced by government money. And Unifor is just one great example of that. And to think that all these journalists are having to sort of take on the ethics of Unifor and the values that they impose on people to then do their job, it's clearly a corrupt system.
Yeah.
and like biased in many ways. So what I'm hoping we'll see is an economic incentive, because unions need union dues. If all of their union members are so sick they can't work, if all of their union members don't trust their employers anymore, they're not going to get their union dues anymore, and they're going to have to start shifting over to readjust their values if they're going to have the future that they had, like that's similar to the past they've had. So they have to really consider their future here, and we're just one tool in the whole machine that's going to give them an economic incentive to really reconsider what their values are.
That's it. It's, if they're working for the very thing that they're supposed to be protecting their people from, it's a massive conflict of interest.
And I'm not opposed to unions. I'm opposed to any sort of authoritative overstep. But I mean, I was working for a big construction company a few years back here in Vancouver, and I got injured. I had a bad leg injury. And if I didn't have the union to cover my back there with the employer, because that employer, like, they were getting pretty shady. And if I didn't have the union step in and on my behalf, I would have just been kicked to the curb. You know what I mean? So I have to, give thanks to the union, my union rep, who stepped in and on my behalf when I just didn't have a voice anymore. And so that was a wonderful thing. So I'm not opposed to unions. I'm opposed to, any sort of authoritative overstep. But when an employee is that small and that little and that insignificant in a situation like that, that's where a union is a blessing.
Yeah. Now, I'm not here to be prejudiced as well, to those by their own free will that have taken the vaccines. That's certainly up to them. But I will tell you my simple breakdown of observations. We have Big Pharma here with a new, safe and effective product. that's not been tested to the high standards and certainly the time scale required for human use. Then we have the media, which is globally 6 corporations owned by even less, promoting the fear campaign and telling us that the World Health Organization recommends that we take it. But the media then is funded by the big pharma industry in order to operate, in a time when really, as we said before, with the News Corporation there, they should be bankrupt. So they are currently selling the narrative that everyone is following. And to add to this, then we have the World Health Organization, which is funded by its biggest donor to date, which is Bill Gates, who is also the biggest investor in the vaccines and the pharmaceutical industry. And it's making billions out of this. Now, the information regarding deaths, injury, and the effectiveness, they're all available for companies to see. And I can understand the bigger businesses being part of this corporate ownership of either BlackRock or Vanguard eventually, because that's where it all filters back to. But, what excuse do the smaller companies have for being ignorant to this and the risk that they're putting themselves at?
Time and research. They just don't have the time to do the research. They don't have the time. Like, all that information is available. But I mean, you've been a business owner. I'm currently a business owner. I don't got time to do any research. I just have to keep my purpose in the front of my mind and keep going. And that's why I can sympathize with some of these people, even though they just will strongly disagree with what I'm doing. They just don't have the time or the resources to stop and do some research and learn something. It's not all of them though. We reach out to a lot of employers who, companies who might be on the fence.
Yeah.
We look at their website and there's no virtue signaling there for like political ideologies. Then we're like, okay, they might be on the fence. They have some policy there that, fits in line with political ideology, and we just leave them alone. But we reach out to them, and sometimes we get on the phone with the bosses. Sometimes we get on the phone with the HR people, and they're like, "Oh, I've heard of you. I love what you're doing, but I can't tell my boss," or something like that. Then there was one we spoke to. It was a mining company whose offices are just based just up the valley from here in Vancouver, just up the Fraser Valley. I won't say what city or town or where they are, but they were saying to me, like, their whole staff, their whole, like, the company brass, so to speak, the owners, the management, they're all double vaxxed. And just a few months ago, the word, they started chattering amongst themselves, and everything they were thinking came out, and they all shifted almost in a day to like, when the boosters are in force, we're not doing it.
Yeah,
we're not going to be doing it. And then when we looked at their website, they didn't appear to be virtue signaling to one side or the other. So we're like, well, here's a company on the fence. They need to know about us. So we reached out to them, and we heard this amazing story from them. It was actually Melissa who spoke with them, and she relayed the story to me. And I was like, yeah, we're seeing, this is one example of the shift we're seeing, so those companies are out there too. We just gotta, now they know our prices. They see an economic incentive and an ethical incentive to use our service. So when they're hiring, they'll be coming to us.
Yeah. And the thing is, maybe in the future, and I'd like to hope and think in the future at least, that, some of these companies that we're talking about here now, the smaller companies that aren't affected by the filtering down from high corporate levels, would possibly within their HR or certainly within the company start looking to employ advisors that can do the research, advisors that can sit down at a table and present the evidence that can give them a full and well-rounded, informed choice on the decisions that they make, certainly for the future of their employees.
Yeah, and this is a great suggestion you're making there. I think they would be willing. with so much confusion on one side or the other. Like, I mean, let's face it, even on our side of the narrative, there's misinformation, there's stuff that you just don't know. People are so quick to share articles or headlines on social media. It gets muddy, it gets hard to follow. And we made a rule within ourselves, like within our company, within Jabless Jobs, we just do not follow the latest topic. We just don't care. It gets in the way. It takes up mental brain space, and there's people are always sending us articles, share. I'm like, no, I'm not. Whether or not it's real or not, I don't care, because it's not going to change my purpose.
No.
And I'm not here to be the relayer of information. I'm here to just facilitate employment. So I'm not doing that, and we don't get caught up in it all. But I was connected to a lot of people in politics last September, and everyone was very focused on the election and getting a certain party some seats in parliament and stuff. And I was like, okay, so when the election's over, excuse me, I said, when the election's over, let's put together some think tanks. We got to start putting our heads together and setting up some plans. And one of the things I wanted to bring to the table was just that, like an organization with some validity that can be hired as researchers just to challenge the Facebook fact checkers, to challenge the mainstream narrative.
Yeah.
But an organization, and I hope someone did it, but by the time the election was over, I was so neck deep in Jabless Jobs that there was no way I can go and sit in some group and have a conversation and change and get my mind off of the heartbreaking emails that were coming in to me daily at the time. There was no way I could have been a part of that. So I hope that someone's gotten something like that going, because there's certainly a need for it, and there's certainly room for it.
Yeah. Now let's talk about some of the ethics that the company runs under. Let's discuss obviously your mission with the business, and we'll start off with becoming the solution.
Oh yeah, well, like I was saying before, we're a great model. We're a great example of having a problem, figuring out a way to solve it. Like if you have a problem, and I want to reach out to people, if any listeners in Canada, we don't have jobs in every single community. I'm sorry, like if you're from a small town in Nova Scotia, chances are we don't have a job there for you, and I'm sorry about that. But look to us as an example. Like we're a solutions-based company, so we're a great model for how if you have a problem, chances are someone else has that problem too. Yeah. So be the solution. Come up with a solution for that problem. And if you look at history, every great company has had a purpose, a problem that they're solving. And that's really what I fell into here. And so if there's a problem in your community, recognize that as an opportunity and be the solution for it. If you provide a solution that's good enough, then you can monetize it, and you should monetize it. There's a lot of opportunity, and like we're in an era like this with higher inflation rates, and a lot of people are uncertain about their future and stuff. People will contract and take less risk. While there's a lot of problems that go happening all at the same time, every problem provides a solution. Every solution is a business opportunity. So we're a great example of how being the solution can provide an opportunity. I mean, let's face it, the government has gift wrapped us this opportunity. Yeah. And if we didn't have the mandates happening, I'd still be washing windows. But now I'm a business owner. I get to work from home. I get to succeed at facilitating in happiness for people.
No, and it's fantastic. It's very rewarding. Let's talk about perseverance.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's one of my favorite, that's one of my great challenges. Like a lot of us have found ways for us to sustain ourselves during this time, but like, Jabless Jobs is just one of the avenues of it. But if you take a little bit of risk and just are willing to put yourself out there, then you can find opportunities that lead to financial sustainability, financial security. You got to take the hits. You got to take the blows. You got to, I didn't know where I was going to be working when I gave my boss the notice last summer. I did not know what was going to happen. I did not know, like I was saying earlier, I had no idea how I got through September and October. Like I had to get down to one small meal a day for a while there. Like it was tough. Um, but I took the blows. I took the hits, and here we are now. Like there's a perseverance isn't some easy thing that happens in a movie. It's very much about taking the hits and maintaining them, withstanding them, and
Yeah.
getting through that era, and knowing that you're going to take some hits. Tell yourself you're going to take some hits, and the next period of time is going to be difficult. But if you persevere, there's opportunity there.
Yes, I've seen that many times in my lifetime as well. I've been in the same positions of you, and the opportunities that arise for people. You know, I've heard people say, something happened in my life, it was bad, what we've seen over the past couple of years, but the opportunities that arise from that are life-changing for them. It's something that they could only ever dream of doing before. And when they put all that effort in, focus upon what it is they're doing, it's completely life-changing for them. And that's a great thing to hear and to see from many people. Let's talk about traditional values.
Yeah, this is our favorite one. um, just going against the political ideology. Like our team here, we all discuss this together, and we just realized that we all share in the support of traditional family, a husband and wife, and kids, and the strengths of each person in the family, each like the strengths of both men and women. Traditional family doesn't mean the man is the dictator. If a man is wise, he will learn from his wife. He will learn from the woman in the house, because they have a point of view that we men don't have. And we have to leave them room to express it and share it. Otherwise, we're missing out on a lot of vital information. Like, let's look at this right now, where we're at this time period on behalf of women. Right through this whole last 2.5 years, it's been women that have been taking the lead in this information sharing. I mean, the previous 15 years before COVID, I've seen women just nonstop in their phones, and like you never see their faces anymore. Their heads are down and they're staring at their phones. Little did I realize that they were gathering information. I mean, like it's such a vital resource to have a woman in your house for information. Like, look at all of history. Information before women were working, and going back to even just the prehistoric era. Information has always been a woman's currency.
Yeah.
They talk, they share information. So they need to know what is safe. They need to know who to trust.
Yeah.
And so they're wired for it. So you got to leave room for the women in your life to express the information that they've gathered. And just I've noticed too, like a lot of the people that I admire, the strong individuals that I look up to, they all came from a traditional family home, or they came from a broken home, and they're advocating for having a traditional home that didn't give up. So we feel like if everyone in the world had and shared in the traditional family values, our communities and our nations would be far better off.
Yeah, that's it. And I know over the past few years, the cries from the people, I've been out speaking at different events. We've formed massive alliances with many people all around Canada, the UK, the US. And the one main thing that we're hearing from women, and they're saying, where are the men? The women have taken the forefront of the fight here to protect their children, to protect their families. And they write, unfortunately, society now, by design, has weakened what I consider to be the man and his role in the life of the family, the children, as the protector. And there are very few that have been standing up. I've seen, I'm against, from the knowledge that I've learned and from the experts that I've spoken to, I have, come to the conclusion that masks don't work.
Mhm.
And, that is something that I've seen. But if ever I went out, I would never wear a mask. And you would see men wearing masks being completely compliant. And you couldn't even talk to them. You couldn't explain to them. They didn't want to know. It was like they were browbeaten and they
Mm.
just wanted to get along with it. And I understand fully where the women are coming from in regards to turning around and saying, where are the real men in society these days? And it's clear that the women are taking the forefront of this fight to bring justice and to bring back the true values that we need around us.
Yeah, it's just that we're in a different kind of war. We're in a different kind of fight, and it's an information war. And women just are wired for information better than us guys. They're wired for gathering information and distributing it better for us. And if you look at social media, women just have larger platforms on social media. They just have the monopoly on that in some ways. And even still here in Vancouver, I take transit around, and I'll be on the trains, and I see a lot of guys, sometimes even more guys than women, wearing masks still. There's no mandates at all.
Crazy. Yeah.
They're still wearing them. I see entire families wearing. I'd say roughly 30% of Vancouverites are still wearing masks, even outside.
It's just fear. Now, when we come to the fear and the effects of what has been, basically a huge psychological operation, let's talk about the health and mental wellness in that regards.
Well, I can only talk about myself about that. I hope that, people, of course, we all want people to make the same positive decisions we do, but, I can only talk about what I experience. And like every morning I go for a run. The first thing I do in the morning is I do a warm up, and I do a 4.5 kilometer run, and I hate it. It sucks. I'm not going to pretend that I like running. I really am not. I'm
No.
not going to pretend like I like it. If I start trying to tell myself that, oh yeah, I love running, I love jogging, I love what it does for me, I love everything, I'll just be setting myself up for failure. I run 4.5 kilometers every morning from Monday to Friday, rain or shine, and I hate it. I do it because it sucks. I do it because it gives, like, I love this analogy. We all wake up in the morning, and there's a battle that happens in our heads. And it certainly happens in my head. And what goes on is, how productive am I going to be today? How mopey am I going to be today? How is my attitude going to be today? How will whatever dreams I had affect me? And whatever that battle is, when I run, I win it.
Yeah.
And I'm in control of what happens that day. And it's sharpening up my mind. It's sharpening up my ability to take any blows throughout the day. Because if you start your day with something that sucks, really something that you hate, it's going to be impossible to be let down throughout the rest of the day. You set a hard precedent that morning, and you go, and the health benefits are just a byproduct. My running in the morning is more psychological. And the fact that, I end up losing weight, and my posture's better and all that, that's just a byproduct of that. So it's important to us, like, and to, like I was saying this early on, like when we started forming into a company, this isn't just about becoming business owners. Like, I have a few partners now, and I said to the team, like, this isn't just about facilitating the employment of people. This is a wonderful opportunity for us to refine ourselves and become the best versions of ourselves that we can.
Yeah.
Because whatever weaknesses we have, working this closely together as leaders in this fight, our weaknesses are gonna show up. We're gonna see them, and we're gonna have to face them.
Yes.
So buckle up. Let's just figure out what we have to do to be the better versions of ourselves. And that means, like, not eating junk food. That means, sharpening up our minds as best as we can, doubling down on our weaknesses, as David Goggins likes to say. Like, you got a weakness there. You don't double down on your strengths, because that's already good.
Yeah.
Double down on our weaknesses, because that's what's going to raise the bar for everything that we do. And so it's really important to us that we, like, me and Melissa here, we're a couple. We live together. We work together. You know, we're on full keto. We only do a keto diet, and of course, sometimes we slip, and it's hard. It's not easy. Sometimes we'd rather have some dessert, but we just don't. But we know we've seen the results from it. So, you know, health and mental wellness has changed us, and being a business owner has forced that on us to just be better, because so many people are depending on us. How could we possibly justify letting our health and mental wellness slip away?
Yeah.
You know, we have to be the best versions of ourselves that we can. Otherwise, we're going to lose.
That's it. And we've interviewed Jason Christoph in the past, and he is an advocate for health and wellness. He helps people get over these demons that they have. His whole philosophy is, you know, to be your best. And he goes in and he deals with all these issues that we fight every day, you know, the consumptions of things that we shouldn't be eating, we shouldn't be drinking, and he's doing excellent with it. He's doing really well with it. I'll have to actually get him back on soon to talk to him. So what plans do you have moving forward with the company?
Well, the directory, like I was saying earlier, is largely it. But we don't want to expand. Like, we want to support employment and business. We don't want to start getting into other avenues of work. So that's really it. We're planning on just releasing a directory in the near future that's going to run parallel with our job board. And then that's it. Like, I mean, of course we're going to be able to add services to that and a few other things, but we're going to just be, our core business is our plans for our core business is going to be a job board and a directory. That's our plans. You know, I have this saying is, like, you know, pick a lane and stay in it. I started saying that last September, October, because I was seeing a lot of people in the movement trying to do too many things, and they're all important things. They're all smart people, and it's hard to say no to these situations. Like, I want to put together a chat group for nurses, out of work nurses. I want to make sure people can fly. I want to set up a job board. I want to set up a directory, and there's these groups that are forming that were trying to do everything, all of it together. Yeah. They had no leadership. They had no economic incentive. And they had no main focus. They were trying to do everything, and as a result, they did nothing. Yeah. So we learned from that, and we're like, they didn't pick one lane and stay in it. What we're doing is, that's when we said we're just going to focus on employment and supporting business, and that's our lane, and we're staying in it, and that's the best way to do it. And if anyone else is listening to this, if you have a problem that you can solve and you think you can do it well, set yourself up some guiding principles and stick to it. So that way, when people come to you with problems that they also want you to solve, you won't be tempted to. If it goes outside of your guiding principles, then you'll know not to do it. And that'll keep you in one lane. And if an organization or a company is strong in staying in that one lane, we want to know about you. We want to partner with you. We want to form a little highway of lanes. We want to make a super highway, because together is how we're going to plow through this information war that we're in.
Yeah. So tell us where people can find you and how easy it is to get set up and find your dream employer or employee.
Well, if you're a business owner, an employer, just go to jablessjobs.work. And there you can find the employer's page, and it'll give you all the information you need, and the buttons you push to post a job. If you're a job seeker, just go to the same URL, jablessjobs.work. That's WORK, jablessjobs.work, and go to the job seekers page. You'll find both of those, employers page and job seekers page, in the menu at the top of the website. And at the job seekers page, you'll find some information on how to apply, how to browse the job board, and also how to. And there's where you'll find the resume builder. Even if you're not, looking for a job on our job board, we'll be happy to help you make a resume too. So that's how you find us. Also, if you have any questions or suggestions, you can email us at hello@jablessjobs.work, and we'd love to hear from you.
That's perfect. And thank you very much for coming on to talk to us today. I wish you every success with this service, and I hope people out there can get what they are looking for during this very trying time. I know many people who have reached out to me for help in the past, and I have tried to steer you in the right places, using the careers, the politics, ethics, and the legal recourse. I hope that now those people see this as a possible beacon of light, a new start, a happy work environment, and God only knows people deserve this right now. So I'm going to finish it up here. And as we say here at the Atlantic Underground podcast, believe nothing and question everything. And if you're liking what you're seeing here today with the Atlantic Underground podcast, look us up at the atlanticundergroundpodcast.com. I want you to like and share. I think that this interview today is important in helping others, and it takes nothing to pass this on. Like, share, send it to somebody, refer Jabless jobs to help somebody find what they need to do. I know that doing this is the only way forward, and only together we can do this, and we should all help each other out. We're all facing the same tough times, and we're all in this battle together. Let's make our lives a little bit easier. Let's help each other out. Let's point people in the right direction. So thank you very much again today, George, for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I hope to speak to you in the future. I'm going to keep an eye on how things are getting on for you. And I want you to take care, and I wish you all the best of luck with this.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great. And thanks to all the listeners. Yeah, spread the word. We'll win this together. It's the only way we can do it.
Absolutely. Thank you very much again, and take care, everyone. And we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you again.